Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Nandana Vajradhana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Nandana Vajradhana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Nandana Vajradhana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacarya Astar Sata Sri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Skaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, this evening I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 24, Text 58. I'll just chant the Sanskrit in translation by myself and read the purport. by Srila Prabhupada. Yan maya chestitam pumpsa stit yudpatyapyayahi anugrahastan nivriter atmalabhasya cheshyate. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead acts through his material energy in the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation, just to deliver the living entity by his compassion and stop the living entity's birth, death, and duration of materialistic life. Thus he enables the living being to return home back to Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Materialistic men sometimes ask why God has created this material world for the suffering of the living entities. The material creation is certainly meant for the suffering of conditioned souls who are part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 7. Mamaivam so jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manasastan indriyani, prakritishtani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. All the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and are as good as the Lord qualitatively, but quantitatively there's a great difference between them, for the Lord is unlimited, whereas the living entities are limited. Thus the Lord possesses unlimited potency for pleasure, and the living entities have a limited pleasure potency. Anandamaya Vyasat, Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12. Both the Lord and the living entity, being qualitatively spirit soul, have the tendency for peaceful enjoyment. But when the part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead unfortunately wants to enjoy independently without Krishna, he is put into the material world, where he begins his life as Brahma and is gradually degraded to the status of an ant or a worm in stool. This is called manasastan indriyani prakritishtani karshati. There is a great struggle for existence because the living entity conditioned by material nature is under nature's full control. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha. Because of his limited knowledge, however, the living entity thinks he is enjoying in this material world. Manasastan indriyani prakritishtani karshati. He is actually under the full control of material nature, but still he thinks himself independent. Ahankara avamudhatma kartahamiti manyate. Even when he is elevated by speculative knowledge and tries to merge into the existence of Brahman, the same disease continues. Arura Krishna parampadam tata patantiyado. Even having attained that parampadam, having merged into the impersonal Brahman, he falls again to the material world. In this way, the conditioned soul undergoes a great struggle for existence in this material world, and therefore the Lord, out of compassion for him, appears in this world and instructs him. Thus the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam shujamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at at that time I descend myself. The real Dharma is to surrender unto Krishna, but the rebellious living entity, instead of surrendering to Krishna, engages in adharma, in a struggle for existence to become like Krishna. Therefore, out of compassion, Krishna creates this material world to give the living entity a chance to understand his real position. Bhagavad Gita and similar Vedic literatures are presented so that the living being may understand his relationship with Krishna. Vedeshta savaraham eva vedya. All these Vedic literatures are meant to enable the human being to understand what he is, what his actual position is, and what his relationship is with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Brahma Jigyasa. Every conditioned soul is struggling, but human life provides the best chance for him to understand his position. Therefore, this verse says, Anugrahas tad nivrite, indicating that the false life of repeated birth and death must be stopped, and the conditioned soul should be educated. This is the purpose of the creation. The creation does not arise whimsically, as atheistic men think. Asatyam apratishtam te jagat ahur anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kamahaitakam. They say that this world is unreal, that there is no foundation, that there is no God in control. It is produced of sex desire and has no other cause than lust. Atheistic rascals think that there is no God, and the creation has taken place by chance, just as a man and woman meet by chance and the woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a child. Actually, however, this is not the fact. The fact is that there is a purpose for this creation, to give the conditioned soul a chance to return to his original consciousness and then return home, back to Godhead, and be completely happy in the spiritual world. In the material world, the conditioned soul is given a chance to satisfy his senses, but at the same time, he is informed by Vedic knowledge that this material world is not his actual place for happiness. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosh anudarshanam. One must stop the repetition of birth and death. Every human being, therefore, should take advantage of this creation by understanding Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, and in this way return home back to Godhead. So, have any of you ever wondered why there is a universe at all? Some of us with overactive minds have wondered that. Why is this whole thing here? Why was it manifested? And this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's purport give a really good answer, detailed answer to this question. Why is there a universe? It's stated in the verse that it's here out of Krishna's compassion for us. So, why are we here? Why are conscious selves, atmas, souls, in the world of matter? It's because at the present moment they are not qualified to enter or be present in the spiritual world. Now, we may talk about where they were originally with Krishna in the light, and maybe eternally here. But the main thing is that somehow or other, each soul in this world, each conscious self, has misused its independence, its free will, in such a way that it's not qualified to be in the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, there's only one thing that goes on: harmonious, loving cooperation among all conscious beings to try to please and satisfy the source of all conscious beings. The Upanishads tell us, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vididati Kaman. There are many eternal, conscious, individual persons that exist, but among them, one is the source and maintainer of all the others. And that's the basic fact of existence, that among all the different individual, conscious, eternal persons that exist in reality, one of them is the source of all the others and the sustainer of them. And if that is recognized, one is qualified to enter the spiritual world, because the only thing that goes on there is loving, devotional service to that all-attractive Supreme Person who is known in the Vedic literature as Krishna. If one wants to do something else, experiment by enjoying on one's own, independently of Krishna, well, you can do that. Krishna allows it. Love can't be forced. Krishna is not going to force anyone to love him. So you have the freedom not to love him. And there has to be another place, however, for that to go on, for us to make our independent attempts to enjoy separately from Krishna in forgetfulness of God. There has to be another place for that. And that is the material universe. And actually, there's not just one material universe, there are many of them. You know, it's described in the Vedic literature how Krishna manifests them. Actually, Krishna himself, he prefers to remain in his eternal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, where he and his eternal associates are enjoying ever-increasing spiritual pleasure in their loving relationships with each other. And for manifesting the material universe, as Krishna expands himself as Mahavishnu to manifest and oversee the material universes. So he remains in Goloka Vrindavan, and his expansion deals with it. Of course, we don't have that ability ourselves to, well, got to work today? Okay, my expansion will go, and I'll remain home doing whatever I like. We don't we don't have that ability, but Krishna does. So he expands as Mahavishnu. And the souls that desire independence are placed within Mahavishnu in a state of susupti, which is compared to dreamless sleep. Now, Krishna could just leave us there in Mahavishnu in a state of suspended animation, deep dreamless sleep for eternity, if he wanted to. But out of his compassion for us, because, okay, we exercise our free will, we don't want to love Krishna, that's fine. Love is not going to be forced. But he could just leave us in that state of suspended animation, but no, he's going to give us a chance. And there's a lot of us. A lot of us have made that mistake. So, out of his compassion, the Mahavishnu, who is lying on the causal ocean, it's stated, sleeping and dreaming, he manifests from his form as he breathes out. You know, he's sleeping and you breathe when you're asleep, in and out. When he breathes out, millions of universes emerge from his form and expand. And then he glances at them, and by his glance, the conditioned souls are injected into each of those universes. And he also expands himself within each universe in another Vishnu form called Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And he lies in the Garbha ocean within each of these universes. And from his navel grows a lotus flower. And on that lotus flower is manifested Brahma, the first created being in the universe. Brahma is an individual soul, as we are individual jiva souls. But he's a very advanced jiva soul, and he has the responsibility for manifesting the different kinds of material bodily vehicles, like the human form, animal forms, plant forms, fish forms, insect forms. Krishna anticipates all the different kinds of ways in which conditioned souls will try to enjoy themselves in the material world. And he provides different kinds of bodily vehicles in which to do that. And that's because our original spiritual form is good for only one thing, loving devotional service to Krishna. Jivara Swarupa Hoy Krishnara Nitya Das, Lord Chaitanya explained. The constitutional form, the Swarupa of every soul, is to be an eternal loving servant of Krishna. So that spiritual form, that original spiritual form that we all have and is now lying dormant within us, that spiritual form is only good for that one thing. So if we're going to be in a material universe acting out our own independent desires for enjoyment separate from Krishna, we have to use another form. So Krishna provides them. And by false ego, we identify with them. Now, out of these millions of different kinds of forms, the human form is the most valuable, because in this human form of life, we can do one of two things. We've got two choices. We can continue to try to enjoy ourselves separately from Krishna, and we can choose to try to educate ourselves, take advantage of the educational opportunities that Krishna offers. So out of his compassion, he says, okay, they've got their free will, they've used it in this way, but maybe these souls will one day decide, this really isn't the place I want to be, with Janmam Mrityu Jaravyadhi, Dukkha Doshana Darshanam. And intelligent people will say, no matter what position I attain, I'm still temporary, in a temporary material body, subjected to the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. I mean, maybe in different places in time, it's a different disease. Now we have our particular set of diseases that we're trying to deal with, but there's always going to be some kind of suffering that comes from disease or old age, and ultimately there's death and rebirth in the material world. May go on. So at some point, soul may freely say, well, this doesn't seem like it's working out for me. Maybe there's some other place, some other way to exist. When the soul starts feeling like that, Krishna is there to say, okay, because Krishna is within the heart. You know, the Garbhodakshai Vishnu expands into the Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who is the super soul who enters within the heart of every living thing. And he's monitoring our situation to see if voluntarily we're going to use our free will to turn back to him. Because we turned our face on him, all right? We thought we could independently enjoy ourselves, find satisfaction in that way. And the material world does not really allow us to do that. We can't. So when Krishna detects that a soul is frustrated with that process and is looking for something else, he appears outside. Within the heart, Krishna exists as the Chaitya Guru, the Guru within the heart. So we're always being instructed by the Guru within the heart. And if we have a sufficient enough desire, the Guru within the heart will appear externally in the form of the instructing spiritual masters and initiating spiritual master. And Krishna also appears in the form of the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. He even comes himself personally to remind us, as he did 5,000 years ago when he came and spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his friend and devotee Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. 500 years ago he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us a very easy way to awaken the love of God in our hearts by the process of Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So he did that. And So that's why, Srila Prabhupada was mentioning in the purport that this material world, it's an educational facility. So, like you've all exercised your free will today to be here at the Hare Krishna Temple in Pacific Beach, California. So, you've come to see Krishna in his spiritual form, to chant his holy names, to taste the prasad that's been offered to him. So we're making good progress in this educational institution, in this human form of life, that we have. So we should try in this life to complete the education, graduate to the spiritual plane of existence beyond birth and death, beyond all of that. So it's out of Krishna's compassion that even though we've turned away from him by misuse of our independence and free will, if he detects the slightest sign that we're ready to exercise our free will and independence, to voluntarily, freely take up his loving devotional service in cooperation with others, because it isn't done alone. There's an association of devotees that agree to cooperate freely and independently, agree to cooperate in loving devotional service to Krishna. It's like in this temple. Nobody is here by force. Everybody is here by their own free will, and they're willingly cooperating to cook the feast, to maintain this temple, to maintain the worship of the deities. And many of you're also cooperating freely in this endeavor. So it's not something that one does alone. One serves Krishna in the association of devotees. Tandara Charana Seve Bhakti Sane Vas. 6 Goswamis, they said, yes, we serve Krishna, we serve Guru in the association of devotees together. So this universe and many other universes are manifested by Krishna out of his compassion to give us the chance to qualify ourselves, to educate ourselves on our real nature. And I think we all sense that if we weren't really in our deepest level eternal souls, we might not feel uncomfortable in the material world, but we do, or at least I do. I feel uncomfortable here in some ways. That yes, it's temporary. There should be some place where the soul can fully express itself, and that can happen, but only if one engages in this educational process of devotional service. And of course, I don't have to say this to you, you're all very serious, but some people, they misuse the human form of life. And when you misuse something, it generally gets taken away. For example, like if we want to drive a car, we have to have a license from the state of California. And as long as you have your license, it could be an automobile license, a pilot's license, generally to operate vehicles you need some kind of license. So if you don't do anything wrong, well, you keep your license, you keep your human vehicle, but if you misuse it, cause harm to yourself or others, get a DUI or whatever, then your license may be taken away, and that means you can't drive a car anymore. To get around, you have to take a bus or a train or ride a bike or find some other way to get around. So no one should misuse the human form of life, because their license to have it may be taken away, and then they will have to enter into some other species of life where this opportunity to make advancement, make progress towards awakening our real nature as eternal servants of Krishna will be taken away from us. So that is one of the main purposes of the Krishna consciousness movement, is to be part of that educational process. And we take that responsibility very seriously. And of course, Srila Prabhupada, our founding spiritual master, founder of Acharya, he took it very seriously, that people have to be educated, what this universe is, why it's here, what our purpose here is, what we should be trying to achieve in life. For that purpose, he wanted to construct in Mayapur, West Bengal, which is our world headquarters, a temple of Vedic planetarium to give people that knowledge, why this universe is here, what is our place in it, where should we be going, what should be our goal of life. So I'll stop there. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Badri Narayan Maharaj.
In my general role as the devil's advocate, you said that you're uncomfortable in this world.
Yes.
And you're advocating that as an intelligent position. Well, that's only because you've created an artificial expectation. If I expect to be a millionaire and I'm not, then I'll be disappointed. So you've created this, nobody wants to die, but hey, that's just the way it is. So because you've created this artificial, I should be eternal, I should be enjoying it I should be free from misery and disease, you've created an artificial goal, and therefore you're feeling out of place and disappointed. I'm almost done. As for me, I just accept reality. I'm a realist. I take the bitter with the sweet. And, I'm generally happy. I don't have these artificial expectations. Hare Krishna.
Okay, taking the role of the prosecutor of the devil. The devil's prosecutor. You're the devil's advocate. I'll be the devil's prosecutor. So you yourself said nobody wants to die. And why is that?
Well, nobody wants to come to an end, unless you're diseased and enfeebled.
That was my point. Why would anybody feel like that? Unless they had some suspicion that deep down inside, that's what the real nature is. Because
I'd like to have wings and fly. That doesn't mean I have them.
maybe you could. That type of bodily vehicle is there for those who want it. If that's your desire, Krishna will fulfill it. In your next life, you'll be a seagull in Pacific Beach.
Don't fret.
There's a nice book about it, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. But anything else? Yes.
Oh, with the mask. Oh, I can speak with the mask. So I guess it goes on similar lines. I have a little problem with the concept of desire. So, you know, the desires that we have. But then you're saying, oh, we aspire to be in the spiritual world. So could that become also a desire? So, you know, how to be careful. Because someone could say, oh, I really want to be enlightened. I really want to get rid of death. Or, you know, so I'm going to follow Krishna and be all behaving. But there's a desire in the bottom. So I don't know if it's right or wrong. I mean, I sense the kind of like intuition, but maybe you could say something about it.
Yes. Desire is natural. The soul has desire. It's a spiritual phenomenon. So the question is not to eliminate desire, but to desire properly. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira. Here, one's desire should be to serve Krishna with body, mind, and words. Iha means Iha yasya harer dasye. We should desire to attain the position of eternal servant of Krishna. So, can't eliminate desire. You know, Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that in the purport, that there's a certain class of philosopher, they try to just totally eliminate desire, but they can't do it. And they may even rise to the position of merging into the Brahma Jyoti, the Brahman effulgence of the body, of the personality of Godhead. But it's a kind of liberation, but it's false liberation, because they still have desire. The soul cannot be without desire. And unless the desire is fulfilled by achieving the service of the personal form of God, then one will be inevitably attracted to fulfill those desires on the material level. And so it said that the impersonalists, they may rise to that position of liberation, but they again come back to try to, because the desire must be there. You can artificially try to stop it. Like I can try to stop breathing. I can try to swim underwater. You know, I can do it for a few seconds, but eventually you have to come up and breathe. So, something else? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a great talk. Yeah, I just want to ask the question about the very, very beginning, when we were with Krishna in our divine consciousness as a spirit soul in divine bliss. If we were in this great state of bliss, how is it possible that we wanted to even separate? I mean, this is like going against our nature. And what came first? Did separation and our willingness to separate started, of course, the creation of the material universe and the yugas and decrease of the consciousness, or actually the yugas brought us down the consciousness? It's for me, it's a little bit like, you know, rabbit that is naturally vegetarian at some point would develop desire to eat steak.
Well, if you believe that, that doesn't invalidate what I'm saying. The point is that right now, whatever you think may have happened in the past, you know, and you're not there now. You know, you're not there now, and that is because we have to use our free will in the proper way. Then we may get there. Whatever we think may have happened in the past, that's one thing. We can have a separate discussion about that. But the real fact is, right now, we're not there. And why aren't we there? Because we're not qualified to be there. So that much we have to accept, I think. And we can have a discussion about, were we with Krishna, not with Krishna. That's another discussion. But we're not there now. We're not there now because we're not qualified to be there, and we should qualify ourselves to be there. Nobody's going to force. I'm just saying that's an option for you. Can't compel you to accept that or do that, but I'm just saying that is an option, to see things like that. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Can I ask a question?
Oh, okay, yeah. Where's that voice from the sky? Go ahead, please. Go on
thank
with
you.
your question.
You mentioned, Prabhu, that we are here because we misuse in past life or whatever. That's why we are here. And then you said again the other sentence. You said Krishna is giving a second chance to come out of this. So both reasons are we did something and then still Krishna is giving chance. Is that the right understanding, Prabhu?
Question is, why is this universe here? So do you have an answer to that?
No, Prabhu.
No. So, and some people say because there's suffering in this world, therefore there can't have been any God who made it. You know, they want to see things like that. But the world was not, the material universe was manifested for a purpose. And the purpose is to give us the kinds of experiences and opportunities to educate ourselves about our real nature and qualify ourselves to go where we really belong. And I think that is, you know, sometimes I think about it, you know, because people could object, you know, why? I can't think of a better explanation than the one that was given in the Srimad Bhagavatam and that Srila Prabhupada spoke about, you know, in the purport that I read. I can't think of any better explanation that respects a few things. The fact that each soul is eternal, that it has free will, that God respects that free will, and God wants everyone to be happy, and that we want to be happy. I can't think of any other explanation that allows for free will, which means the freedom not to love God. Because if God were to force, it wouldn't be love. Love implies it is willing, it is independently offered, not forced. If I force somebody to love me, they got a name for that. You can go to jail for it. So I can't think of any other arrangement that God could have made that respects free will. Okay, something else?
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Thank you, wonderful class. Thank you.
Okay, so on to the
Hare Krishna. All right, well, thank you very much, Drutakarma Prabhu, for visiting us from Los Angeles. Yes.
well, unfortunately, not this time, but the books are available on my website, mcremo.com. There's a place on the website for ordering books, and we have some special offers. Maybe you won't want to take advantage of them because you probably already have a Bhagavad Gita, but anyone who buys my latest book from my website, mcremo.com, mcremo.com, will be offered the opportunity to get a free copy of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita if they want it, don't already have it. But so that's where the books are available.
Yeah, so thank you again. And